Hi, everyone. For Chapter 7, I've chosen upbeat music, with my choice being Don't Bring Me Down by Electric Light Orchestra. I'm back home to where I feel I belong, at least for this stage of my life. I'm still trying to make connections with these spirits. I also found humor in an encounter which gave some an enlightenment to my overall situation, and that was I actually scared a ghost. I have an encounter that is puzzling, as it seems different, and this is the one who wears the robe of a monk. I'm not sure if it's afterlife, but another person who lives. I also want to highlight the woman who wears the white long dress that carries a baby, and a man who wears the breastplate. Enjoy! I finally moved back to my not so new home on the water in August of 2013. And in brackets, by this time, I'm sure the reader is lost. When I look back at the moves I've actually made since moving out of Concession 8 to 2007 to the present time of moving back into this property, it counts at 7. That's 7 times in 6 years. With this last move, there was no one to help but my son. Oh, poor me. They all gave up on me, but I have had many people helping me make my moves that I'm very grateful for. Then again, this move was next door, but as usual, the window to move is usually the same day. I also have to say one of the old-time neighbors must have been watching me make hundreds of trips from one house to the next as she sent a delivery pizza to my new home that evening with a note that said, "Heather, have a rest and enjoy." I kept the note. It was nice. It was so kind of her to actually acknowledge my efforts. Up to now, I have said a few words looking to see if I can interact. I have said, "I see you." And once I said, "I see you. You have an orange shirt on." Very seldom do I actually say something. I guess it may be that I am treading towards a different path. As of today, I'm not sure they know I can see them. If I should open this door, would it start to get out of control? Would my sleep time turn into constant visits? I guess I need more time and more comfort within to venture further than has been happening. I do know that I try to recognize who or what is visiting. I suspect I'm doing this quite in the hopes to recognize my sister. What will I say to her? I would first of all say her name. It would probably be Sandy, I see you. I miss you so much. I don't know if I would get more into the conversation before she dissipates, but this would be a start. So far, I've accepted what has happened and what continues to happen. I know they are spirits. I am still cautious of what I may encounter. I usually just view silently, but have ventured into speaking a few words. I still have an automatic reflex, but am trying to be more tolerant of these that come close to me. I thought A thought that came to mind, and I let my imagination carry it away with inputs of what I've learned and trying to explain why. I have felt from the beginning that there is a connection to a graveyard in the spirit. I have seen this in the short time since my awareness. Two examples are the graveyard visits with John's family's cemetery, and that spirit that rose from this. This was this was the male with the sword and the spirit that was glowing, which came to visit more than once. The other was the father and son visit, which I connected through my friend's accident and walking through the cemetery in the village of Pakenham. There are times when I have noticed lapses between occurrences. It was after I moved back into the new house on the water that I felt brave enough to experiment by going to the cemetery. I decided to visit the grave of my sister, dad, and grandparents. Two odd occurrences happened after this visit, not what I was expecting. One of those nights I saw a ghost-like figure. Disney has captured this type of occurrence because it was very much like being on the ride in the haunted house where the ghost appears in the ballroom. In my case, they were floating above the bed and there were two of them side by side, as if a couple holding hands. The next one left an impression, and the next morning, after reviewing the situation, it enlightened me. It was like a reverse role situation in that I scared him and he is a ghost. I was lying on my back towards my left side when I woke instantly and saw a spirit. It was a male with no details to describe in a cloudy figure. I could make out that he was a smaller male from the outline of the figure I was looking at. I guess an old man that was wiry looking or small. When I saw him, he was bent over very cautiously with his upper body and head turned towards me. As he leaned forward, his hands were on the edge of the bed as if holding his balance. This is the position he was in when I woke and opened my eyes. My first reaction was of being startled. I uttered out the words, "Oh, you scared me." As soon as I said this, his head pushed himself back very quickly and dissipated. It was as if I caught him looking. This situation gave me the impression of his intentions. He was getting a closer look and was looking cautiously, but when I woke, he jumped back and was startled more than I. I had a good chuckle the next morning. I actually scared a ghost. It was a bit of a comic relief with the shoe being on the other foot, sort of speaking. From this experience, it occurred to me that when some of the spirits appear, I am unknown to them as much as they are unknown to me. This spirit was trying to see who I was, or maybe to see if I was sleeping. As I was in bed and was sleeping, they do see me, and in this case, they may see the whole situation that I'm sleeping in my bed as this one was leaning on the bed. It was physically there for him. Then I also recall my sister sitting on the pillow beside my head. They do recognize and see the room and the content of the room, at least the ones that look like shadows do. So they see me clearly as if you were looking at me. And that's a question. I think so. It was at night with no lights, and there was a reason for him to try and get a closer look. On November the 28th, 2013, I had another very memorable occurrence. This occurrence was much like the one described on November the 23rd, 2012 at the investment property, almost a year to the day. Today's visit totally had me on high alert with not being able to fall back to sleep. Ever wake up from a nightmare with your heart racing and so focused on what just happened that you need time to settle down? We have all been there. Last night was one of those visits. It freaked me out because it was one of those full color, really close encounters which don't happen too often. The room is dark, but you only see shades of light to dark gray. I opened my eyes as an automatic reflex with the feeling someone was watching me. There was someone watching me, and he was very close. He was so close I could see his eyes blinking. He also jerked back so slightly as I also startled him with an instant eye pop open and a shocked look on my face. This is how it went. I went to bed around 10:20 after completing my routine and climbing into bed. Yes, I actually have to lift myself up into this high four-poster bed. I'm tired tonight. I usually take some time to think about my agenda for the next day or review the day's activity or just spend some time thinking. no different than anyone else. Tomorrow I'm meeting with a few coworkers at a model home to update the development activities. Nothing unusual. I do recall trying to get into a comfortable position as it was a little bit cold. The blankets pulled up to my neck for warmth. I would say it took from 10 to 15 minutes to fall asleep. I'm sleeping, and in an instant, and I do mean an instant, I wake and say the words, "You scared me." This is now a saying that comes blurting out with some of the visits. I find if the spirit is close to me, I'm aware it is close to me, and upon awakening, the words are coming out at the same time I'm waking up or reacting to the situation. This time I see a man with a full beard looking down at me. I know I startled him, but only in a subtle way. He pulled his head back slightly and his eyes blinked. He was wearing a period outfit, nothing I would expect to see around me in today's clothes. It happened very quickly, so I was focused on his face, eyes, but noticed the hood over his head. It was heavy cotton material looking like a robe cotton, the kind you see like a monk wearing. It was dark beige or light brown in color. His beard was brown with a reddish color. It was not clean shaven, but not overly long either. He was staring right at me. I'm looking into a totally full lit round picture frame. There is only the male face when looking into this. My room is dark with no lights on. How can this possibly be? I'm fully awake and alert to what I'm seeing. I would say the image is 1 to 1.5 feet from my face. I'm lying on my back, so I'm looking up at him. He is at an angle of about 45 degrees to my view. I do notice he is looking down at me, as when he motions back, the gravity of the hood is still forward and moves slightly. I can actually see that he pulled back slightly. I can only see an opening with him inside it, and it is daylight or bright around him. I'm seeing from around his breast area to about halfway up on his hood, but all of his face is in view. He is a white person. I would say he is about 4 to 5 feet away within this opening. Now I can't help but wonder what he is looking at. Is he looking at me in bed, sleeping, and then waking up? Does he only get the view of my head as if he was looking at the reverse? What is he looking through? I do know he was peering at me before I woke up. Who is this person? Does he know me? Why is he wearing an outfit that looks like a monk outfit? How is he connected with me? Why am I getting a look at this whole picture? I'm in a dark room, but it is that what he is looking at. How could he focus on me if I'm in the dark? I'm also lower than he. This occurrence brought back a few other happenings in my mind, like the one at the ski hill when the man who appeared to be walking over me. The only commonality to this one is the heavy cotton robe. It is cotton and heavy. I did not see this man above the knee. The one I just saw was above the chest. The only similarities were the color and material. Then there is the male that appeared a year ago. The similarity is how they are presented when they appear. Both are looking inside a tube or rounded picture frame with the face very close at the other end. About 3 Sundays back, I saw a figure that was in color, but was completely different from that of the person who appeared as a real person in a lit picture frame. It appeared when looking at it from above the chest to the top of the head. This figure was also wearing a heavy cotton robe with the hood over the head. The cloak was covered just above the eyes. The person, I'm not sure if a girl or not, but had a scary appearance. The appearance could have been cast from the dark, shadowing, only giving the illusion of a being scary. It didn't have light around it. It was in the darkness. The cloak I could make out as being dark, heavy cotton robe. After encountering this male with a robe over his head, I saw him again the next night, but he did not have the cloak on his head. I only saw his face, and it was not in full color. It was presented like the others are that you can see through. This was strange about him appearing a second time was that I was lying on my left side in the middle of the bed and had to turn my head towards him because he was just out of my viewing range on my right. I turned to my right and saw his face looking at me. When when he was doing this was he doing this to confirm that I actually was acknowledging him? Maybe the first encounter he was not positive that I was wakened because of his presence and was actually seeing him. Maybe he needed to know if I actually was seeing him. At least this is the impression I was being given with the second occurrence. I don't know if I'll ever gain enough observations from these different experiences to say what is happening. They're all different, but I'm trying to categorize the way they appear. I also had another vision in my room and know it is a cat. I would say a wild cat. It was not looking at me, but towards the wall where his head was. His head is. It appeared over by the patio door and the wall parallel to me so that I could make out his profile. The profile showed cubbed ears and a short face snout. It was black in color. There have been many cat occurrences. At one time, I could identify a strong foul odor and sensed a presence. This happened on a different occurrence where I actually smelt this odor before going to sleep. I did catch a glimpse of it one night as it was jumping off the bed, but it dissolved before landing on the floor. I actually lifted myself up and followed it, jumping down. It was not very large, but a bit larger than a house cat, but not a house cat. There have been other occurrences that happened with cats. I like cats and have always been around a cat, so having a spirit cat around doesn't surprise me. I have actually seen them many different times and felt movement on my bed, which I suspect it as being a cat. I had a visit from a woman that appeared 2 nights in a row. The first night she appeared, I could tell she was a tall, built, slim, and had long blonde hair. The next night she appeared, it was as if she was talking and her hands were moving quickly as she appeared to be talking. The only thing is that I could not hear a word she was saying. I wondered if I saw a picture of the woman that lives in a house that I had just shown to a couple, if I would recognize her. The house that I had shown this couple was under the power of sale. The woman that owned the house had been murdered, and the case had not yet come to trial. I have also seen my sister, but when she appears, it was not in the same presentation as before, not the same gray shadow as before. This time it was only the head. It was in front of my view as I'm lying on my back, in bed, looking up at about a 45-degree angle, and I saw her face. But it happened so quickly, and it takes time to register what I'm seeing, and by this time it dissipates. I was not expecting the different way of seeing her. I also saw another view of a girl presented the same way as this presentation of my sister, only I noticed the white wings behind her. This is when I considered possibly seeing an angel for the second time. There was an Asian person that also had appeared in my room that I woke to see. And as I woke to see him, I said, "Who are you?" He later appeared outside my bedroom, looking into my room from the glass patio doors. I have had so many encounters that when I make myself known, they are surprised. All react differently. Some of them I scare because I'm acknowledging their presence. Some want to confirm that I have acknowledged their presence. Some take a different approach after they suspect I do see them. Some test me to see if I actually see them. I've witnessed this more than once. This one male person was actually taking off his shirt. I said to him, "Why are you taking off your shirt?" This is now a large part of opening up and talking to them. I want them to know I do acknowledge them. I want them to know I see them. I did another experiment that may seem rather humorous, but I was trying to communicate knowing that I couldn't hear them, but they could hear me. What I did was put a piece of white tape on my face that had the date on it. I only did this for a few nights and then discouraged myself. But I did see a woman with a sign that had writing on it. She was far enough away that I could not make out the writing. You could also tell she was talking at the same time. Her lips were moving. So after this, I thought, I will try this again, but differently. The next time, I'll write something on a cardboard and place it above my pillow to see if anything will come out of it. I never did try this. I've also seen a wild dog or coyote with the back of him in the dark. This was really weird to me because I had the sense that I was under this animal or he was walking over me, and I woke to see what it was. When I see when I saw another encounter, the wild dog came to mind. The other occurrence was that of a young woman holding a baby in her arms. The baby was positioned vertically on her right side. I saw her full slim figure, and she was wearing a long, white, long, flowing dress or skirt. She was positioned on the side of a hill. I could make out the sky behind her. She appeared 2 nights in a row. What was weird was that I had the sense or feeling that I was being looked at from below her view, as if I was in the ground. After this appearance, I thought back and tried to see if others fell into this category. There were three. They are the man that wore a thick cotton robe that I only saw from the knee down to the sandal, the woman with her baby, and the coyote/dog. This observation has made me wondering if my spirit is resting in other locations and something walks over it. Am I seeing what is waking over me from past graves? Might be far-fetched, but one for thought. What put me in the frame of thought to even consider this was the fact that you can pick a spirit up at a cemetery or graveyard, so maybe I have an active spirit and I'm actually seeing this happen. Again, it is like being in real time, and at the time it happens, I'm actually sleeping only to be woken up. So there is a very small window of this happening and me being made aware of possibly someone in the Middle East and twice in the daytime, which would account for a time difference. Have to keep this thought open. In July of 2014, I had attended the Celt Fest. This is a weekend outdoor festival that promotes the Celtic heritage by performing Celtic dance and music. The next day, I had an unexpected visitor that I can associate to this festival. I woke up and blurted out the words, "Whoa!" as I saw this figure coming through the patio bedroom door. He also filled the side of the patio door he was coming through. I would say he was around 6'5" with long hair. He had a kilt on, and I noticed what looked like a breastplate or metal armor on his chest. What really caught my attention was that he was looking down as he was coming in, and when I said, "Whoa," he lifted his head to look at me. He then dissipated. This again assures me that they hear my voice and do acknowledge that I'm there. Another observation is that it is usually during the dark and mainly after being awoken from my sleep that I visually see these encounters. Even if I do have the feeling or sense that there is something around me, I still do not visually see them. I'm, I'm only getting a short window of seeing their presence, but as I make this observation, I have seen the same spirit appear more than once. Not only the same night or within a few days, but many months later, they can reappear. What intrigues me is that there are so many occurrences in such a small window of opportunity. I can't imagine how I would function if it was all day as well. It gives me peace of mind knowing that there is a time for involvement and it does not interfere with my entire day. I'm I just went past her. I'm curious as to how often I'm having these visitors. I have tried in the past to capture when and what, but I've never kept up with the time. I'm good for a while, then forget or just ignore it. One of the calendars that I wrote in started in January of 2012. This is how I know about this old lady's second occurrence happening. The calendar takes me out from this date to March the 14th. It gives me an indication of how often. For the month of January, I wrote 5 times. In February, I wrote 5 days, and up to March 14th, I wrote 5 days. Some days can be multiple times. Some days I just put a check mark. Here are the occurrences that I added. Patio side, lift form look, life form looking at door. Side/front profile. Said, oh hi. Her movement jolted back further away. Returned at curtain. Ma Golden Girls. In brackets, same one appeared twice. 2 others same night. January 16th. Man. January 18th. Young blonde woman looking down. January 25th. Peter's double. Life size. Tall. Big. Leaning into the bed and arms holding him up. Outstretched. January 28th. 2 visits. Men trying to see who I am. One close to me. February 3rd. Close with picture frame color. Peep view. Not sure, but may have been Peter. Missed one week of February the 6th. February 16th. A shadow, large, floating. 2nd. Woke to a very strong scent of perfume. Very distinct, 1:38 a.m. February 23rd. 1.5 feet from facing towards curly hair, heavy bone structure and pronounced cheeks. Peter. February 28th. First flowers. 2nd, girl floating high, only face. 3rd, question mark. March 4th. Woman, long blonde hair, tall, color see-through. 2 other different visits. March 9th and the 10th are checked off. March 13th, purple top. March 14th, foul odor, large cat. So in this short time, there were 15 days in less than 11 weeks with 22 occurrences captured. I have recently again tried to capture the days to find out the frequency. So far, I've checked off 24 days from January 1st to March the 2nd, 2015, with 35 occurrences during those 24 days. One was a young boy that I would say was between ages 5 to 6, judging from his height, which was about 4 feet. He had blonde hair and a very distinct nose when looking at his profile as he was looking at my clock radio on the dresser beside my bed. This one visit had me searching online at a funeral parlor. I had been to a funeral parlor in Smith Falls the same day that this boy appeared, and I thought maybe I had picked the spirit up from this location. After going back to all the deaths online, there was no connection. There was also another child 3 nights later who was standing vertically on my bed. I said the words, "What are you doing on my bed?" 2 weeks later, on January 21st, I had at least 5 different occurrences. The one that I wrote about was a small child presenting a teddy bear. The bear had a ribbon around its neck type with a button type ribbon like the old first place ribbons you see at fairs. This child was pleased about his teddy bear. It makes me so sad when I see a child, and there have been a lot that have come to visit, all different ages. I'm making an effort to add to the calendar that I have talked about above to try and capture the frequency. I am very comfortable and loving my new home on the water and hope that moving has stopped for a long time. Up to this point, I have captured the most notable activity that I can recall from either writing it down in the past or by memory. Next, I will try to summarize my observations and see if it can lead me to any conclusions. And so that ends chapter 7. And I'm looking forward to seeing everybody next week for the next chapter. Bye, everyone.